Are there now two Buster Swords in the same timeline? It certainly appears that way by the end of Yuffie's DLC, though it's hard to be completely certain. After intermission's ending, we were all treated to an additional scene, and as we can see, Cloud has the infamous weapon on his back. But then again, so does Zack. We see him standing outside the church, wondering how to greet Aerith after all this time has passed. And there is the Buster Sword, plain as day upon his back. Like nothing had ever happened. So one of the main questions heading into Rebirth is how exactly this is possible. And I've seen three major theories that try to address this. 1. The Whisper's defeat sent some sort of ripple effect throughout the timeline, causing certain major events to essentially be rewritten. This is probably the most common theory, and with it we have no problem addressing the fact that there are two Buster Swords that exist at the same time. The sword would have been cloned, for lack of a better word, duplicated. So both Cloud and Zack can walk around with one on their back, no problem. But there's also a prevailing theory that runs counter to this. The theory states that two separate timelines are weaving in and out of each other, causing both to be rendered unstable, which would account for the two swords. If Zack is in one timeline and Cloud is in another, well, then we don't really have to worry much about this paradox. Unless, of course, the two are to eventually meet up. But then what would happen to the Buster Sword? One has to wonder if the timeline would begin to correct itself, forcing one of the two swords to disappear, dissolve, to dematerialize, because there's only supposed to be one. And if it did disappear, would it be Zack's sword or would it be Cloud's that would vanish? Because I can see arguments being made for both. Now the third theory I've seen states that Zack isn't really even alive, and everything we've seen of him are essentially just projections from the lifestream, trying to protect itself. In which case, there aren't really two Buster Swords at the moment. Cloud would have the one that was passed on to him before Zack's untimely death, and that's it. While the issue of how they deal with the sword depends ultimately on how they decide to deal with the timelines, I'm really curious as to everyone else's thoughts. Are there indeed two Buster Swords now? And if so, is it possible we see the timeline force one of them to dematerialize? Or has the sword simply now been cloned and the two can coexist? Just leave a comment down below, and if you feel up to it, maybe hit like, share, or subscribe to help support the channel. Like always though, I hope you have a great day. May your heart be your guiding key, my friends, and happy gaming.